Hello, everyone.
Hey guys.
Hello.
So now I have the burden of leading this discussion. I just got to relax last week and just throw in a few chats and just kick back and listen.
Time to get back
Hey,
to work,
Stu.
Steve.
So our topic tonight is a purity tornado. I think it's a new term. I've not heard anybody else use it.
Pretty.
And
It kind of reminds me of a spiral.
well, yeah. Remember, we had a discussion after a private discussion after our stream last week, and I wanted to do something on purity and how it can be misused or exaggerated. And so, we started talking about the purity spiral, but it's a spiral oftentimes goes down. This is a destructive force. And so it's like a tornado is a spiral. It's a whirlwind, and it's highly destructive and very powerful. So it's similar to a purity spiral, only this introduces the destructive component. And a purity tornado is a move for someone to take the high moral ground in a discussion or debate. It's affiliated with an ad hominem attack. When a person asserts they are more moral than another person, they assume a position of authority, and this renders them able to cast dispersion on the other person. And in this way, the other person's belief, logic, facts, and arguments can just be readily dismissed and declared invalid and immoral. And this comes from experience, but I will say the purity tornado is primarily used by women.
Oh yeah, imagine that.
Now, have you experienced this with a woman when she assumes the high moral ground and dismisses everything you have to say, and then throws you under the bus and claims authority to make decisions and all that? Have you ever experienced that, Nick?
Yeah. Well, I got the text messages for that between the sisterhood where, oh, I grew up in the church. He didn't. Yet he's more knowledgeable than me, but he just came along later. I'm more pure than him. I'm more moral because I grew up in church.
Yeah. So if you had a Bible verse that clearly supports your position, it's now immaterial, right? Don't care about facts. Don't care
Nope.
about your beliefs. Don't care about your logic because I have a higher morality than you. Therefore, I'm right.
Supposedly. I
Yeah.
mean, they might not even have a higher morality, but they that's the mask she wears. That's the
Morality is
mask
an
she wears.
abstract. Morality is an abstract term. They, in fact, might be right about certain things, but they, in fact, are not right when they try and use that tactic to gain authority over someone else. Because at that point, they're not interested in a discussion or to learn.
You see this with a lot of women and even some of the Christ pill guys. Oh, some of those some of those red pill teachings, the applications, the prescriptions are, immoral. Therefore, the red pill's bad. We're going to sit in judgment over the whole thing, but ignore the facts.
Right.
Are you saying that it's easier to destroy something by hiding behind purity than it is to because we're talking it's a tornado, right? And tornadoes are destructive forces. It's easier to uh, hide behind this. It's like,
Even Satan appears as an angel of light.
oh, and well, yes, but
Just saying.
well, but see that's kind of what I'm getting at is they are doing something destructive. They know it's
Yes.
destructive, so they're hiding behind the purity of it to justify the destruction.
Yes, and there's also a motivation to do this. They lack the knowledge and the logic to have a frank discussion with you, a give and take debate. So, as I said, what do people do in that? It's an ad hominem. So this is a method of doing the ad hominem. Instead of just saying, well, you're just an SOB. It's much more powerful. I am a very pure moral person. Therefore, I deem you an SOB.
Yeah. I've heard that before.
Well, this is the entire woke philosophy. They are more pure, therefore they have the right to tell you you're an evil, horrible person for not being pure with them. Right? Am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong.
No, well, we'll get into
They
that
have their own
at the
specific
end.
purity standards as well.
Oh, did I skip ahead again?
No, that's fine. I'm going to get to that at the end. So, what? Okay, this is nothing new. This has been used against men in the past. Oh, where? Gee, there's nothing new under the sun. So, what I want to do is read through this wiki.
Oh,
okay. Now, oops, I just clicked the wrong thing. Okay, so let me read through this and stop me whenever you want to comment.
All right.
Okay, the Women's Christian Temperance Union is an okay, this was, well, you'll find out, around late 1800s, early 1900s. It's an international temperance organization. It was among the first organizations of women devoted to social reform, with a program that linked religious and secular through concerted and far-reaching reform strategies based on applied Christianity. It played an influential role in the temperance movement, originating among women in the United States prohibition movement. The organization supported the 18th Amendment. That was the one that prohibited alcohol.
Yeah.
And was also influential in social reform issues that came to a prominence in the progressive era. See, it was a progressive era. They were progressive. They wanted to control other people,
Especially men.
The WCTU was organized in 1873 in Hillsboro, Ohio, and started on December 26. Matilda Githruch Carpenter led a successful campaign to close saloons in Washington Courthouse, Ohio, and it declared a national convention in 1874. Oh, and you're going to be amazed at this. It operated at an international level and in the context of religion and reform, including missionary work and women's suffrage. 2 years after its founding, The American WCTU sponsored an international conference at which the International Women's Christian Temperance Union was formed. The world's Women Christian Temperance Union was founded in 1883 and became the international arm of the organization, which has now affiliates in Australia, Canada, Netherlands, Finland, India, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, South Korea, United Kingdom, and United States, among others. Do you notice anything about those countries, Nick?
We're all lib, pretty much.
Okay, well, I'll point it out when we get a little bit further down. The WCTU conducts a white ribbon recruit ceremony in which babies are dedicated to the cause of temperance through a white ribbon being tied to their wrists, with their adult sponsors pledging to help the child live a life free from alcohol and other drugs. Oh, so they involve the
Good
children.
Luck. Good luck.
Okay. At its founding in 1874, the stated purpose of the WCTU was to create a sober and pure world by abstinence, purity, and evangelical Christianity. Annie Wittenmeyer was its first president. Oh, what a beauty. Wittenmeyer was conservative in her goals for the movement, focusing only on the question of alcohol consumption and avoiding involvement in politics. The Constitution of the WCTU called for the entire prohibition of the manufacture and sale of intoxicating liquors as a beverage. Okay, so she had a limited scope. Frances Willard. Okay, let's see a picture of her. Oh, she's a very thoughtful woman. Oh, look at what it said. She was a woman suffragist. Okay, yeah.
Notice they
She
both
was
have short hair.
the second WCTU president and objected to this limited focus of social issues WCTU was addressing. Willard believed that it was necessary for the WCTU to be political in women's issues for the success, expansion, and implementation of the WCTU. In 1879, Willard successfully became president of the WCTU until her death in 1898. So, yeah, 19 years. During her presidency, the WCTU grew significantly and established a relationship between temperance and suffrage. Despite advocating
Never
for
enough.
women,
It's never enough, is it?
no, despite advocating for women, WCTU did not challenge gender roles. Rather, they integrated elements of proto-feminism into the organization.
What a
Yes, that
bunch of
early
bullshit.
feminism.
How the hell can you have proto-feminism and not challenge gender roles? What kind of idiot put that shit in this page?
Well, okay, what the hell is proto-feminism anyway? What the?
Okay,
Why?
the concept that anticipates modern feminism in eras when the feminist concept as such was still unknown. It was prescient, in other words.
This stuff was around even in like the 17th century with the Anabaptists, Quakers, and antinomians. It's all and Mary Wollstonecraft and the Jacobins in France. It's a bunch of crap. This feminism has been around a long time. It's just gobbledygook. This is an ignorant person putting this shit on whatever Wikipedia.
It's probably accurate, though.
No,
I mean,
it's not. It's
you
not
don't
accurate.
think. Well, they were promoting feminism. Remember, when did feminism start? The Seneca Falls Conference.
No. Actually, it was there beforehand with the Jacobins at the Revolution, at the French Revolutionary War. French Revolution, and it was there with not the Quackers, but the Quakers.
Oh,
Might as well be
okay.
Quakers,
But the point
Anabaptist,
is,
antinomians. Yeah, yeah.
it was first there was a predecessor to first wave feminism, and this was it. Can we agree on that?
Well, I think they even call first wave feminism proto-feminism, which is really odd because
Okay.
look when it says 1898. When was Seneca Falls?
1846
It's been
or
50 years.
1848.
That's bullshit. And they're
Okay.
already into suffrage. They're already. I mean, it's feminism, guys. It's feminism.
Okay. Its members were inspired by the Greek writer Xenophon, who defined temperance as moderation in all things healthful, total abstinence from all things harmful. In other words, should something be good, it should not be indulged into excess. Something should be bad. If something should be bad for you, it should be avoided altogether. Thus, their attempts to rid society of what they saw and still see as the dangers of alcohol.
And they're
The
more pure than Jesus.
Yeah. The WCTU perceived alcohol as a cause and consequence of larger social problems rather than as a personal weakness or failing. The WCTU also advocated against tobacco. The American
Can't have any fun.
WCTU, right, formed a department for the overthrow of the tobacco habit as early as 1885 and frequently published anti-tobacco articles in the 1880s. Agitation against tobacco continued through to the 1950s. Okay.
Yeah, they just don't want men to have any fun, do they?
No.
Well, okay. So there's a larger point here that I want. So this was what, 1898?
Yeah.
Notice how they're using the same language that modern leftists use. It's not a personal failing. You were done wrong by society, and that's why you fell into drugs and alcohol. And you see that today with the homeless crisis. The vast majority of the homeless are druggies. Sorry, guys. That's just what it is. But they blow enormous sums of money trying to solve the homeless crisis by trying to fix society around these people such that they come back to that they return of their own accord, that if society was just better, they wouldn't feel the need to behave this way.
And Jesus, aren't they supposed to be Christian temperance? Don't they know the Bible where Christ says, "The poor you will always have with you"?
It's not in their Bible. That was taken out.
Okay.
Let's look their policy. Let's continue reading because this one will set Nick off.
Oh, you chose this episode just to set me off, didn't you, Steve?
Yeah, it's my turn.
Why do you think I'm being quiet? Why do you think I'm being quiet? I'm just gonna let Nick cook.
As a consequence of its stated purpose, the WCTU was also very interested in a number of social reforms, including labor, prostitution, public health, sanitation, and international peace.
Yeah, that reminds me. You know about all the beauty pageants? What do all the girls always used to say? It was like a cliche: "World peace."
As the movement grew in numbers and strength, the members of the WCTU also focused on suffrage. The WCTU was instrumental in organizing women suffrage leaders and in helping more women become involved in American politics.
Abomination. The politics.
Local chapters, known as unions, were largely autonomous, though linked to state and national headquarters. Willard pushed for the home protection ballot, arguing that women, being the morally superior sex, needed the vote in order to act as citizen mothers and protect their homes and cure society's ills. at a
Hey,
time.
Steve.
Whoa!
So they're
What? Dick?
they're morally superior. That means that's because they're like angels, and let alone like there's been how many persons in the womb unalived? What sex did that?
I
Was like,
don't
I don't
know.
know how many millions, 50 million plus, but hey, they're the morally uh 50 million plus. Okay, morally superior. Yeah.
Okay, at a time when the suffragists were viewed as radicals, rightly so, and alienated most American women, the WCTU offered a more traditionally feminine and appropriate organization for women to join.
Sneaky fucker tactics. That's all this is.
Yeah.
This is progressivism doing the speed limit. This is modern day tradcon. The sneaky fucker tactics. Hey, we're 20 minutes in. I can say that.
There you go.
Yeah. Remember, once this gets going, it's like a tornado. It did accomplish prohibition, and it moved women, Christian women, on to accept the need to vote. When really that this was, remember, it was a minority of women that wanted the right to vote or thought it was a good idea. So this supposedly Christian organization was promoting, oh, women need a bigger role so they can, oh, citizen mothers and protect their homes. Isn't that the husband's job? Okay, the home protection interests also extended to labor rights and an openness to socialism. Oh man, who'd have
Imagine
thought?
that. Right?
WCTU had a close association with the Knights of Labor, sharing goals for class harmony, sober and disciplined workers, and a day of rest. Concern for workers' conditions and the effect on family life led many members to also critique the exploitation of capital, as well as demand a living wage. Now, they were right here, because during this time, men oftentimes worked Monday through Friday, 12 hours a day, and Saturday, 6 hours a day. That was the standard work week. And yeah, that rightly needed to change. So, they got some things right. Although the WCTU had chapters throughout North America with hundreds of thousands of members, the Christian in its title was largely limited to those with an evangelical Protestant conviction, and the importance of their roles has been noted. Goal of evangelizing the world, according to this model, meant that very few Catholics, Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, or Hindus were attracted to it, even though the last three had a pronounced cultural and religious preference for abstinence. As the WCTU grew internationally, it developed various approaches that helped with the inclusion of women of religions other than Christianity, but it was still always primarily and still is a Christian women's organization. So remember when I asked you about what did those countries have in common?
Yeah.
Those were not Catholic countries. So it's primarily evangelical, which evangelical believe that they are more holy and pure and right than Catholics. They kind of have a religious superiority belief. I guess you could say the same thing about Presbyterians and Catholics too, though. We just don't flaunt it as much.
Everybody does it, but there's a point where, yeah, it's there, but are you going to beat them up with, "Hey, I'm morally superior than you"? Or are you going to argue based on scripture and logical consequence of the text, and including church fathers and all that stuff.
Well, even the ortho bros, which they do the same thing. Everyone thinks that their religion is the most pure religion. It's a
That's who mine is. I'm sure people disagree. I get it.
right. I what I would say is there needs to be, this is the end result of this idea that your religion has to be pure and that you have to signal the purity of your religion. Is your religion good and moral? Yes, no, okay. We can have disagreements of doctrinal and theological disagreements all day long, but if I can look across the aisle and I say, oh, yeah, okay, Steve, he's one of them damn papists, but we still agree on the basics, so we can have a conversation. So focus less on the purity of the doctrine and theology and more on what you all agree with.
Well, don't
Well,
innovate shit. That's another thing. Don't bring new shit in that has no basis in scripture or tradition.
Yeah, please
You're not
don't.
the first
well, let me
generation of Christians. We're already divided enough. Shut the hell up and let's debate what we already have.
I'll say it this way. Just because you believe you have a better understanding of Christianity and what's moral and not does not give you the right to control what I can and cannot do. And that seems kind of what the whole point was. We are more moral, therefore we want to abolish alcohol for everybody.
Man, the Lord's Supper, we can't even do that, man.
Oh,
Jesus.
you wait, Nick.
Are you
just-
saying Jesus himself was one of as an intemperate, immoral person?
By their standard, yeah.
Okay, just wait, Nick. It's not time for
Well,
that.
I know
rant.
where this is going. I know.
The WCTU's work extended across a range of efforts to bring about personal and social moral reform. In the 1880s, it worked on creating legislation to protect working girls from the exploitation of men, including raising age of consent laws. It also focused on keeping Sundays as Sabbath days and restrict frivolous activities. In 1901, the WCTU said that golf should not be allowed on Sundays.
That's traditional stuff. No, that's actually
Yeah, I know.
traditional. That's traditional. That's nothing new in the history of America. I mean, we had strong Sabbath laws. So,
I know, but you can't play golf on Sundays. I mean, how many men would go along with that?
not many, but back in that day, most people did.
Yep. Okay. The WCTU was also involved with efforts to alleviate poverty by discouraging the purchase of alcohol products. Through journal articles, the WCTU tried to prove that abstinence would help people move up in life. A fictional story in one of their journal articles illustrates this fact. Ned has applied for a job, but he is not chosen. He finds that the potential employer has judged him to be like his Uncle Jack. Jack is a kindly man, but he spends his money on drink and cigarettes. Ned has also been seen drinking and smoking. The employer thinks that Ned Fisher lacks the necessary traits of industriousness, which he associates with abstinence and self-control.
Okay, this is woke 101. This is the woke cancel culture in the 19th and early 20th century. Oh no, he had a whiskey. Oh no, he had a cigar. Can't hire him. He's not pure enough, according to their standards.
Right. The Women's Christian Temperance Union grew rapidly. The WCTU adopted Willard's do everything philosophy, which meant that the WCTU campaigned for local, state, and national prohibition, women's suffrage, protective purity legislation, scientific temperance instruction in schools, better working condition for labor, and anti-polygamy laws, Americanization, and a variety of other reforms. despite having the image of a gospel temperance organization. The presidential address of the WCTU provided excellent insight as to how the organization seamlessly blended issues of grassroots organizing, temperance, education, immigration, and cultural assimilation. Wow, they're gonna change the world. One prominent state chapter was the Minnesota Women's Christian Temperance Union. The Minnesota chapter's origin is rooted in the nation's anti-saloon crusades of 1873 and 1874, where women throughout the United States joined together outside saloons to pray and harass customers. In Minnesota, there was stiff resistance.
Can you imagine being a guy out on the inside and your wife is out there? It's like, see, this is why I come here. I can't have any peace at home. Can't even have peace while I'm drinking a beer.
In Minnesota, there was stiff resistance to this public display. And in Anoka, Minnesota, heroic women endured the insults of the saloon keeper and his wife, who poured cold water upon the women from an upper window while they prayed on the sidewalk below. Sometimes beer was thrown on the sidewalk, so they could not kneel there, but they prayed. As a result, the Minnesota women were motivated and formed local societies, which soon united to become the National Women's Temperance Union. In 1874, women from St. Paul, Minneapolis, Red Wing, and Owatonna organized the first local clubs between 1875 and 1877. The Minnesota WCTU began in 1877, and they expanded through the state. Okay, so they extolled the values of WTCU, which included converting new immigrants to the American culture or Americanization. Bethy Lathe Scoville, a native New Englander that moved to Minnesota in the 1880s and served as president of that chapter, delivered her presidential address where she expounded on the methods the Minnesota chapter of WCTU could utilize to accomplish its variety of goals within the state. Scoville adopted what was at the time a progressive approach to the issue of immigrants, particularly German and Scandinavian in Minnesota. We must have a regiment of American workers who will learn the German language, love the German people, and work among the German children and young people until we get them to love clear brains better than beer. There must be others who, for love of country and dear humanity, will learn the Scandinavian language and be real neighbors to the many people of this nationality who have come to make homes in America. Again, others must learn French, blah, blah, blah.
Hey, Steve.
Yep.
Really need to drink a beer for this episode. Too bad. Well,
I got a question for you in the chat here.
Yep. Oh.
The Women's Christian Temperance Union was mostly comprised of Methodists and Baptists, but hardly any Anglican, Lutherans, or Catholics, right?
I kind of believe that's true, but I don't have any data to support that. I mean, it was not Catholics. It's primarily evangelical. So notice a difference here. Anglican, Lutherans, and Catholics all have liturgical services. They have more of an order to their worship services and more of a hierarchy. But yeah, I think I would agree with that.
All right, you can continue. I just wanted to throw that out.
Let's just skip down to let's see. Oh, this isn't that interesting. There were some colored people in there. Then in 1893, they pushed for prohibition, linking prohibition and suffrage. Okay, it was explicitly religious organization and worked with religious groups in social reform. It protested wine use in religious ceremonies. During an Episcopal convention, it asked the church to stop using wine in its ceremonies and to use unfermented grape juice instead. A WCTU direct resolution explained its reasoning. Wine contained the narcotic poison alcohol, which cannot truly represent the blood of Christ. Nick, do you have anything to say about this one?
Look, grape juice can't burst wineskins. That's a fact. They don't burst wineskins. And there was the first this Welch, I think it was Welch, if I'm not mistaken, came up with the way to not have alcohol in the wine made grape juice. So grape juice was invented in the 19th century, guys. When you had grapes pressed, there was yeast. If I'm not mistaken, yeast, but I might be thinking of beer. But anyways, it fermented. And wine was fermented. Yeah, some of it was cut with water, might not be super alcoholic, and there's some debate how alcoholic the wine was. But, and I think it's John chapter 2. Oh, they're talking about running out of wine. And Jesus turned water into wine. Now, would it make sense to turn it to grape juice and everybody be like, man, why'd you serve the best for last? The best grape juice for last. People's going to get all, riled up about the best tasting fruit of the vine or grape juice? No,
Nick,
because usually you serve the best wine at first while people aren't as inebriated and they won't know when you give them the trash wine later. But they noticed the wine was so good that Jesus gave them after probably people were kind of drunk at the wedding.
okay, so
Yeah, you don't get that with grape juice, guys.
what would happen if you took a glass of grape juice and left it on the counter for 3, 4, 7 days? What would happen?
Never done that. I'm sure it would ferment.
No, it'd get moldy.
Uh,
What would happen? Well, you wouldn't even, okay, you can just open the bottle and close it with the lid and just leave it, and it will mold because they didn't have refrigeration back in biblical times. Now, what happens if you uncork a bottle of wine, pour a glass out, put the cork back in, and let it sit on the counter for 2 weeks? Is it still drinkable after that? Well, assuming you're not a wine snob.
Yeah.
Yes, because the alcohol preserves the product. I mean, it can't. I mean, alcohol is a preservative. I mean, what do we use on wounds to clean wounds or clean scalpels or whatnot? Alcohol.
These
So
people
yeah,
are so pure that they're going to rewrite the Bible and have new doctrine to fit their purity tornado. Apparently, the traditional Jesus, as Christians understood him for 1,800 years, is not good enough.
okay, let's move down to reach. Okay, it says this wing of the WCTU was more concerned with how morality played a role during the temperance movement. With that in mind, it sought to save those whom they believed to be of lower moral character. For them, the alcohol problem was one of moral nature and was not caused by the institutions that facilitated access to alcohol. Again, women are more morally superior, therefore they need to restrict primarily men's use of alcohol. Remember back to this home protection thing? Not directly stated in here, but that's to protect women from their drunk husbands coming home and beating them. There was a belief that happened all the time.
I don't know about all the time, but it did happen, and it's a terrible
Well,
thing. But
it happened frequently,
Yeah.
commonly. I didn't say I'm not implying that every man did that or most men, but the fact they believed that it was a common occurrence. Just like our courts now believe that it's a common occurrence that a man is a danger to his children.
Even though
It's not.
women are statistically more abusive in relationships than men, of course, the extent of the abuse is actually higher for the men. The amount of damage they can do because he's a bigger guy. Generally, they're men; they can do more damage. But no, actually, women tend to abuse more in relationships than men.
Well, that pretty much covers what I wanted to point out from this article or this wiki. So let me go back to my notes, summarize. So, I don't know how many of you have heard of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, but they have temperance in the title. So that was the thing, but oh no, can't stop there. So to summarize, it was then anti-tobacco. Oh, and then women's suffrage. And then home protection. Oh no, scary man, bad man.
Man
And
bad.
then, they're going to evangelize the world. They're going to, world peace, blah, blah, blah. And, they're going to eliminate or reduce poverty. They're going to protect young women by raising age of consent. That was probably a good idea. Living wage. Okay, that was probably a good idea. Public health. Well, if it's promoting installation of sewers and water lines and things like that, that's probably a good idea.
Christian's been doing that for a long time, though, besides the temperance women.
And then international peace. Well, okay, I think I'd like to see war reduced, but to think of some women in an organization is going to have an impact on that. I mean, don't even bother stating it because, I think it's
Imagine
kind of
being the
silly.
guys in the other country, and you're not a feminized country at this point, and like, what are these women doing? Like, it's probably going through their mind. Who wants to say it?
I'm not tracking with you, so you're going to have to say it.
So a lot of these they want this end of war, and they want to go have present all this stuff, and who are they going to talk to? If they want to speak to these guys, of these leaders of these other nations, I don't know if that even happened. Why would they want to listen to them? Because they're not even, a lot of these nations weren't even had anything, we're not even close to being feminized at this point. They'd be like, who the hell is this woman and why is she, you know?
They wanted to reach. That's why they formed women's organizations around the world. They
Oh,
could talk to women and have those women control their men. Hey,
control them.
don't women always help other women control a man?
Oh, they try. It might work for, well, it depends on the man. Most men are kind of controllable betas, but it's like the 80-20 rule, I guess. So a lot of men. I don't know back then though. I don't know if it was that bad. I think some of the men still had fathers in the home. They still had a spine. So
Yeah, okay. So
I don't know.
okay. Are you ready to get controversial now?
Are we always controversial?
No, not always. Although you do seem to enjoy it, Nick.
I used to have another subtitle. It's called Ecclesiastical Troublemaker. I probably should have brought it back for this one.
Okay, so now this might seem a stretch to some, but I'm proposing a theory that it's related. And feel free to challenge me, or for our audience, feel free to disagree. But there are some interesting things in here. So, what other occurrence happened right around early 1900s? Well, there was a promotion. Well, there were a lot of hospitals built there. We were moving from an agricultural economy where most, 95% of people were farmers, to more of an urban thing. So there were probably fewer home births, more hospital births. And so that's when circumcision became prevalent in the US. So what what caused that change? Well, let's read about it. And I agree with most of this. Male circumcision has been a subject of controversy for a number of reasons, including religious, ethical, sexual, and medical. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, in a rapidly changing medical and surgical world, circumcision rose in popular as a means of prophylaxis in the Anglosphere. Okay, that's prevention of diseases. Its primary justification was to promote cleanliness as well as reducing and preventing the incidence of disease. Many medical professionals and advocates of the procedure also believed that it would reduce pleasure and the urge to masturbate, which was considered a social ill of the era, although their belief is considered false in modern times. You know, too much masturbation is going to cause hair to grow on your palm. So that's the point. That was the push. It was a moral thing to control people, control men, and it was primarily, I think, among evangelical Protestants. It's not the first time it was discussed, right? In Christianity, right, Nick?
No. And it was the Gentiles that were uncircumcised and supposedly the Jews that were circumcised. Now, there's a debate whether what is biblical circumcision versus Second
Oh,
Temple
I'm
or
not going there yet.
Talmudic. Or, yeah, all right.
I'm talking
I'll
about
jump
the
ahead.
disagreement between Peter and Paul.
No, you don't need to be circumcised. No.
Right. And so that was discussed. And okay, I'll just make a passing comment. In classical and Hellenistic civilization, ancient Greeks and Romans posed great value on the beauty of nature, physical integrity, aesthetics, harmonious bodies, and nudity, including the foreskin, in art, and were opposed to circumcision, an opposition inherited by the canon and secular legal systems of the Christian West and East that lasted at least through the Middle Ages, according to Frederick Hodges. So, okay, circumcision changed, and also our views on nudity changed. And that's all I want to say on that. Okay, so then it goes through Book of Genesis and a lot of the ancient issues, and the Romans outlawed it, and there was a biblical controversy, and then I think this is it. Oh, no, further down. Oh, here's Christianity. Now I got to find where this thing is. Okay. The Apostle Paul referred to these practices in his letters, saying, "Was a man already circumcised when he was called? He should not become uncircumcised." Okay, and they're referring to reversal of circumcision.
Yeah.
But he also explicitly denounced the forcing of circumcision upon non-Jews, rejecting and condemning those Judaizers who stipulated the ritual to Gentile Christians, labeling
I mean,
such advocates.
That was the first
Yeah.
ecumenical council.
Yeah, labeling such advocates as false brothers. In the mid-2nd century, rabbinical Jewish leaders, due to an increasing cases of foreskin restorations in the Roman Empire, introduced a radical method of circumcision, the pariah. Or is that how you say that, Nick?
Pariah? Where's it? Oh, yeah.
P-E-R-I-A-H. Pariah?
Paria?
Okay.
I don't know
Okay.
what language it's coming from, so I couldn't.
Okay. That left the glands totally uncovered. And so the remaining, whatever that. The new method became immediately the only valid circumcision procedure to ensure that a born Jew will remain circumcised for all his life, and to make mostly impossible restoring the foreskin. Okay, so prior to this, they just snipped off the tip. So the foreskin still mostly covered the glands, but there were two methods for reversing that. One, you could use something to hang a weight and cause the skin to grow, and there was a surgical method. And the Jews did this to pass as Gentiles to avoid discrimination. Remember, during this period, men did engage in athletic competition.
Like the gym, like wrestling. Wrestling was one of them.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the wrestling was primarily nude. It was because it was practical. Remember, during this period of time, clothing was very expensive. You did not have multiple changes of clothes. You didn't want them to get ripped. You didn't want them to get dirty. So sometimes people would disrobe for certain tasks, and possibly there's some speculation that even fishermen, possibly the apostles, didn't wear much clothes when they were out fishing. We don't know.
Good.
But, okay, my point is here, remember, okay, the Jews tried to control people with circumcision. And the Christians came up with medical advice or reasons to do this, but their primary reason was to control morality.
And what was going on at this time was a rise of dispensationalism. Isn't that interesting?
Yes. And, can you really imagine men advocating the removal of their young son's foreskin?
No.
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 So, I've never found documentation that this was primarily pushed or advocated by women. Now, okay, remember, among all these movements, women are not the ultimate leaders. there are men over the top, overzealous men who are influencing the women. Circumcision was Kellogg, maker of Kellogg cereal. He had a sanitarium or some hospital, a mental health hospital in Battle Creek, Michigan. So he was an advocate, but he was also, I don't know if he was Christian, but he was kind of a wacko. But again, it's to force purity on other people. So I'm not saying that it is the exclusive domain of women, but women latch onto this. Women can advocate for it. Sometimes they promote it. Sometimes I guess you'd call them useful idiots. If I'm not calling them idiots. You know what the term useful idiot is?
Okay, fine, Steve. I'll call them useful idiots.
Okay, I'm not calling them idiots. I am calling them useful idiots.
A useful idiot is still an
difference.
idiot. No. A useful idiot is still an idiot. It's just that their idiocy is useful to somebody else. So if you're a useful idiot, you're an idiot. It's just you're dumb in a way that I can use to my own ends. So they're idiots.
True enough.
So the purity tornado. So what do we have today, Steve?
Well, we have.
We did all this like about the 19th century, early 20th century. We really haven't hit on today.
Well, before we get to that,
Uh-oh, I'm jumping
let's
ahead.
just talk about women's phrases. You point out something that a woman does or might not be good. What's a common response? Men do that too.
What
Okay,
about?
so
What about?
yeah, what about that? They deflect and say you're just as bad, therefore you can't have that question, or you can't shame me. And then
It's
we hear
it's a
the
it's like a constant round about tornado of who's more pure. He can never get around to addressing the argument.
sure. And then when things get really frustrated, she'll say, "You're not the boss of me." Or have you heard a kid say that to you? I mean,
Oh
that's
yeah.
common
Oh yeah.
from your kids. You're not the boss of me. In fact, yeah, I am. And we see this in the churches and everywhere. But the how many pastors give sermons and say, "Well, women have more empathy than men, or women have such empathy."
Bullshit. Bullshit. Call
I mean,
bullshit
but
on
they
that.
say
I'm
it.
sure Plutarch does
Everybody
too.
believes that women have more empathy than men. And it's really not the
Yeah.
case. And we did a show on this. We saw in that article that women claim they're morally superior. Now, my first wife said that. She also said she was more spiritual than me. And women in general would have us believe that they are more pure and less sinful. Now, does the red pill manosphere agree with that?
No. I don't think so.
No, they don't. Is it easier for a woman to have illicit sex
Yes.
Is it easier for the average woman to do that than for the average man?
Yes.
I mean, basically, no one's refuted the fact that if a woman wants it, he can go out and find a willing man any night of the week.
Even a fat woman, if she's direct about it, she could probably get it.
Probably.
There's some dumbass desperate enough that he'll stick his dick.
True enough.
Just saying.
So now you want to get into modern day. I guess I'm putting all this under equality and egalitarianism. So the term egalitarianism or egalitarian in the Christian church, when did that become popular? What do you know about that, Nick?
Comes from the French word égalité, and actually it was a famous phrase of the Jacobins of the French Revolution. But egalitarianism, I think, was probably coined in the mid latter 20th century, if I had to guess. But it's the whole point of the equality of the sexes on pretty much every level.
Well, and again, this is my impression. I'm guessing it happened in the 1960s.
That would kind of be my guess.
That would, that was the women's liberation movement. That was in the Catholic Church. It was Vatican II. It was changing of the Mass. Women no longer had to wear head coverings. I think it also coincided with the charismatic movement. Didn't that really take off in the 60s? Then we had the Jesus movement in the 70s.
Okay, look, the charismatic movement has had its origins in like these crazy mystical women, medieval mystics that thought Jesus was their boyfriend and all sorts of crap. Then you had the Anabaptists do the same crap, the antinomians, the Quakers, the early Methodists. Oh, even some of the holiness movements also in the 19th century. Then you had Pentecostals early 20th century as well. And yeah, you had that in the 60s and 70s. Charismatic.
Right, but that's where it became generally popular. And you had a charismatic movement. Pretty much all denominations, a charismatic faction, including the Catholics. There was a Catholic charismatic movement. Up until that point, no, it was the groups that Nick mentioned. So, in addition to that, it's kind of the idea that women are just as holy, just as many spiritual gifts, have the gift of prophecy, have all these equal gifts than men. And I think that coincides with the mainstreaming of egalitarianism in the wider Christian church. So, what do we see today? Marriage is now commonly called a partnership. You even see this among Christians. Marriage is a partnership. Well,
it's not.
It's not. Okay, if you and I form a business partnership to sell cars, does that mean we have a business marriage?
No, it's different.
So a marriage is a partnership, but a partnership isn't a marriage. Okay, so they're two different terms. People, do not consider marriage to be a partnership because that implies two equals and each gets a vote. And when each gets a vote, the woman always gets a veto vote. Therefore, the man is the junior partner.
Hey, and the pastor generally will make sure that you know your place to be the servant leader. The
Yeah.
servant of your wife.
So remember, equality and all the things we talked about previously was to control men, to deprive men of their power and authority. Which, go back to Genesis, God gave Adam dominion. He never specifically gave it to Eve. I mean, there are two creation accounts there, and one is more general than the other. But that's my belief. So, how else are men controlled? Well, we have these anti-discrimination laws. Now, I'm not in favor of discrimination. But in lip service to anti-discrimination, we have to hire minorities in women and give them favoritism. So, okay, in order to promote equality, we're promoting inequality. Because if the man is the best candidate, he's handicapped and he's not given the job because someone else is given that job. So that makes it harder for a man to actually earn a good living and provide for his family. But never mind, we need to take his power away and his authority.
Man's
Then
screwed.
what?
So it seems like the all the parameters of civilization, society, and religion are to screw the man over,
Well,
to
yeah,
handicap him.
but it has to be for good motives. It has to be by someone who has a higher level of purity.
Oh, the women. That's right.
Or minorities too, yeah. Okay,
Oh,
then
okay.
we have the Violence Against Women Act. Well, the things that were illegal for both men and women, but there's special cases for women. So now a woman can just claim something and a man can be deprived. Oh, he can be deprived of his liberty. Oh, restraining order.
Yep.
Oh, now he loses
Yep.
the right to bear arms. Oh, yes, they can take his children away. Was
Oh,
there
this sounds
really
really
due
familiar.
process?
This sounds really
And
familiar, Steve.
it's consistent with
It-
the
man,
no fault divorce laws, which are not. I mean, they give women a lot more power than men, so they're not equality laws. They handicap the man in order to have equality by elevating the woman and controlling the man.
yeah, because man bad, gotta protect those women, even though the
So,
data does not support those conclusions.
so what did Trump just reverse in this area?
Oh, DEI, didn't he? The affirmative action,
Yeah,
basically.
diversity, equity. Was it diversity, equality, and inclusion?
No, it was equity. You're right.
Equity. Okay, equity.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to equal outcomes versus equal opportunities. Equalities tend to be
Yes.
more for equal opportunity, where equity tends to be no. We have to make sure that everyone gets an equitable share.
Right. Which
So
doesn't mean
equity
equal.
is actually good in the court of justice, is meaning like the rich person can't,
No.
shouldn't get off with a lighter sentence than the poorer person for the same crime.
Yeah, but
Correct.
equity is not good in a family court because they use an equitable distribution in order to justify giving more to the woman. So it can be misused. I mean, anything can be. But now, okay, all this DEI stuff. Okay, we can't or the government won't hire on that basis. They're shutting down all those departments within the various agencies. Maybe we're not going to have dual standards. We haven't seen how this is going to impact the military yet, but our readiness, a lot of soldiers and military men have said that the standards for women are not the same as the standards for men. I guess that's well established. And that our readiness has declined because of that. So we haven't yet seen the implications in that area. But, okay, there is a little bit of pushback. So what's the other thing that we used to hear about 2 years ago? It just kind of faded away. ESG.
Oh,
That was the rage.
that was the
What?
WF.
That was
That
what?
was pushed by the World Economic Forum, right? The ESG.
Yes.
Yeah.
BlackRock was big in that. I think in one of our
Yes.
episodes I talked about the CEO of BlackRock, forget his name. He basically came out in 2023, I think, and said, well,
Larry Fink.
yeah, Fink, yeah. He came out and said, well, ESG's gotten such a bad name that we're going to have to rebrand it just to try and get away from that. So be prepared for a rebrand of ESG under new terminology.
Okay,
So
so
it's
for
like when
those
a
of you,
restaurant, does well when it opens, and then it fades away. Then they all of a sudden they open a new restaurant.
Yeah,
So this is
it's
the same
right.
crap.
Okay. ESG stands for environment, social, governance. It never quite made
Okay.
sense, but it means, oh, the green agenda, that's part of ESG. You get points for sustainability and stuff. Social, well, promoting social good and promoting women's issues and trans stuff. Oh, you got brownie points for trans stuff and supporting the homosexual stuff, putting a rainbow, having rainbow stuff in your corporation. You get points for that. And governance, I think, I don't know, what was that about? Promoting these things globally or in the government, or I don't know. But it was social programming because remember the Purity tornado. Oh, we are more morally intelligent than you because we love the environment. We want to protect the world, the earth, for future generations. So, okay, they had and they had more empathy and they care about people and the justice for different genders and all this. So, again, attempting to gain moral superiority, and it turned into a purity tornado and did way more destruction than good.
And you wonder why all the young men are so teed off. Because where do the young men in this country, with the majority being white, and he doesn't have to be white, but
I was going to say that
especially white.
there's a lot of young black men out there too who are fed up with this.
Absolutely. Yeah, they should be because they're getting screwed on every level too. We're bad by existing. How about keeping a good man down by saying no matter what you have to accept all this crap in order to get X, Y, and Z. So I guess I would have a better chance in this environment to affirm all the right mantra, and then call myself a she.
Okay, that ship has sailed.
I know it's
The
gone
time
now. Thank the Lord,
the
right?
time to do that was about 4 or 5 years ago. The pendulum has begun to swing back. We just saw it with the DEI stuff. Oh, you can say, well, that's just one thing. We'll just wait till a Democrat gets in. Yeah, okay. Once it swings, it's going to keep going. And I'll tell you why. Because there are financial issues this country has to address. Our deficit and, well, the debt is growing out of control.
Oh, mean the boomer economic theory that we have?
Yeah, and
Yes.
eventually we just cannot afford the size of government that we have. We just can't. You can't afford. There's going to be pressure on transfer payments. Okay, what is the most hidden transfer payment?
Plutarch would know this.
What?
I'm sure Plutarch would know this. I don't.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I just had some really.
What is the
shitty-
most hidden transfer payment?
Oh, inflation.
I mean, okay. I'm going Social Security Title IV.
Okay.
You know what that is?
Yeah.
You know how hidden that one is?
Oh yeah.
You know what that one is? Well, our audience doesn't. So let me just cut to the chase. Okay. So a man gets divorced, goes through family court. They, assess child support, probably, and maybe spousal support. And it always is a payment from him, direct garnishment of his wages to the state who send it to the woman. And 15 years ago, it could have been a direct payment, but they never allow that anymore. Why? Because whatever the county collects from a man and sends to the woman is fully matched by a transfer payment of money from the Social Security fund to that county to support their enforcement program.
I sent that in a letter to my lawyer. I said, y'all should be thanking me for getting this into your jurisdiction instead of coming after me.
So the man paying $1,500 a month to his wife, the state takes a 3% transaction fee, so she gets $1,445. So they took 3%. Plus, they're getting reimbursed $1,500 from the federal government to pay that social worker who just took the kids and deprived you of access to your kids. So, not many people know about this because it's supposed to be secret. Because people might be upset. So, gee, if you're trying to cut the size of government, if you cut this, people might be upset, but who are they going to blame? And it's easier to hide. So, okay. So my point is, this is just an example. As government shrinks and cuts back and spends less, it will mean less money to promote the control of men. Let's put it that way. So the tide has changed. Now it's moving towards where you can be a man of, traditional European heritage male in the U.S. and have actually a greater or a better chance of getting the job and not being replaced by a minority or a woman. Because now the federal government technically is not supposed to be giving preference. So I think the pendulum is swinging.
It's a good thing about social media is it's so more difficult now to stop the flow of information. Because the truth is a threat to the system. They can't have men knowing the truth because they will become antagonistic towards the system. They will get angry. They don't want that. Got anything else for us, Steve?
Well, yeah. What do you think the solution is? How do you deal with the purity tornado?
Just like that. Believe it or not, Chief just dropped the answer in there. Same thing we've been doing with
again.
It's the same thing. Same thing that's been happening with the H-1B stuff that we've been talking about. Happening. I mean, everyone, the transing. You know, we started noticing that the shit was happening, and then people went, "Whoa, this isn't what we signed up for." Yeah, if people start noticing what's happening in the, in the transfer payment system, they're going to go, "Wait a minute, this isn't what we signed up for." You know, Doge is publishing how much they're cutting. Holy shit. So exactly, Chief, make noticing great again.
So you're going to find, the most common use of this is by your wife or significant other. They're going to try and win arguments and make you and have you change your mind or surrender to them. Yeah, it's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Your solution is simple. Just say no.
You gotta realize what's going on and say, nah.
No. No. You need to give me some logical arguments why I should change my mind.
Fellas out there, particularly you of the Christian bent, it's okay to tell your woman no. I'm not going to say there's no chance you won't die from it because some women are fucking nuts. But
I know. If you know my story, you know I know.
Right. But in the general case, look, one of two things is going to happen. She's either going to back down and get back in pocket, or she's not. And then you're going to learn something. And wouldn't you rather know? People are going to say, "Oh, Plutarch, you're just going to break up these marriages." Yeah. Is it a?
You're not breaking them up.
Well, like
you're just making them notice.
Exactly. But they would argue then that because of the noticing that causes the breakup because the guy notices, and what I would say is, look, if you have a marriage where this is going on, you don't have a marriage. You certainly don't have a Christian marriage. So who the hell cares? It's not, I mean, is it really worth trying to save that? People are going to say, "Oh, it's bad that you want to break up families." Yeah, look, I'm not a tradcon who's just trying to make some fucking line on a birth rate graph go up again. No, the only way that you can change this system is for the women to learn that there are consequences to utilizing these systems that are outside of their control. And that starts by telling them no. And then you learn something. And then you tell them no again, and they go, "Wait a minute, this isn't what I signed up for. I wanted my beta bitch, and you're not being a beta bitch anymore." Oh, damn it!
Any
Go ahead.
any marriages that end because you say no, it was probably sexless anyway.
Yeah.
Therefore, it wasn't much of a marriage.
Well, and that's why I said it. I said I would go so far as to say it's not even a Christian marriage. It might be a marriage in the state sense, but
Or the church is involved in keeping you a submissive little bitch. But yeah.
Right. So okay, I'm breaking up marriages. Okay. Why, like, that's not a problem.
Your marriage is inverted. If you're going to cause problems by saying no, by having authority, and I'm not talking about being a tyrant. You just, stop putting your first priority, pleasing your wife, start using logic and common sense. And I want to go out to eat tonight. No, we can't afford it. No, we're saving for this. You can say no, and it is your duty to say no. And if you think you can't do that, what kind of relationship is it? It's upside down, where it's a femdom, female dominated relationship. That's not a marriage. That's not God's design for marriage.
Yeah. So as Shu says, marriages today are state-backed fornication agreements. They're not holy. They're not. These marriages aren't sacred. They're okay. So okay, fine. I'm going to break up some unsacred state-backed fornication agreements. Woo hoo. I'll be over here cheering for the men that get out of this. Because if they get out of it now, before they encounter serious problems, that's better for them. Yeah, it sucks for the women, but let's see. I saw a tweet today. Rollo, it was actually a tweet from Rollo, and I really liked it. He was responding to, I don't know if you guys know this, Nick Freitas guy. He's a tradcon. I'm gonna try and see if I can't pull up the tweet here.
Okay, hold on. Nick Fuentes.
No,
Right?
not him.
No, somebody else?
Yeah, somebody else.
Okay. I stand corrected. I don't know who that guy is. Nick Freitas.
He's a Virginia representative of some form. Let me see. Let me pull this up here. So Nick Freitas is going on, about, he's on the Trigger podcast, and he's going on about, young men are going to revolt, and okay, like, I can get there. Like, we've talked about that. Okay.
Yeah, we have.
This is Rollo. Trad utopia is not your utopia. Trads lost the fight. Why would you think they'll win the rematch? Traditional conservatism was destroyed by an irreversible process, which is what we're talking about right now, this feminism and all of that. And now he's talking about the trads. They're not offering to save society for you. They're demanding you save it for their kids. They don't want men to better themselves. They want better men to solve women's problems.
They just want to keep men on the plantation.
Exactly. And so I'm looking at it going, if we break up a marriage because of something we said, a man gets in his, tells a woman no for once, and she goes, well, that's not okay. I'm going to look at it and I'm going to go, yay, I saved a man's life. That is a win.
And let me point out,
there's proper ways to marriage. There's proper ways. If you're a Christian man, you go to the elders, you say, look, she's not submissive. She doesn't want to. Eventually she's going to leave you.
Yeah, that's right. When you start preparing.
So the man says no. He's not breaking up the marriage. We're not saying the man filed for divorce. We're just saying he says no. And then it may cause her to rebel and file for divorce and break up the marriage. But that's on her. That's on her, not on him. All he did was say no.
Look, if saying no can
Be
break up a
prepared.
marriage,
But you should be prepared.
well,
You should be a realist, though. You should be prepared.
you should. But look,
Prepare.
if telling a woman no can break up a marriage, it's not even a state-backed fornication agreement. It was a piece of toilet paper that you signed your name on, and then she wiped her ass with it. Like it's worthless. What's the point of being in a marriage where, saying no leads to a breakup? All you're doing is signing up for all of these various government resource extraction schemes that we've talked about.
I guess to summarize, guys, just don't be afraid of saying no.
I'll take it a little bit further. Guys, whenever you see the purity arguments come, just start saying no.
So I don't know if
Utah's a good question.
I don't know if people appreciated this history lesson, but history is important. You have to know how we got here. That's okay. Consider that. Okay. Oh, there are some extraneous facts you probably learned if you stuck around. Oh, how's that relate? I don't think that relates. Well, okay, now you know some more. You can dismiss it. I don't care. And then you can see how this behavior today is nothing new. It existed in the past, and there's a continuity here. So most people today don't know any history. They're just looking at everything that shows up and how they feel today. What happened last week, they already forgot about. Last year, who cares? Everything is evaluated now. Well, you're just going to be blown every which way, and you have no real understanding how to stand firm against a purity tornado if you don't have any understanding of history, logic, biblical traditions, what the Bible says, however you want to say that. You need knowledge, and I'm trying to give you some knowledge.
So, like, I'll give you a historical example of purity spiraling with the some of the Anabaptist folk. So, in the 16th and probably through the 17th century, especially, I would say on the European continent, I would think Germany, for example, that'd be you could do the Swiss, you could do Germany, that area. So the Anabaptists, those talked about being rebaptized, as they were caught up with the Spirit a lot of the times. There's some variations where some rejected the Trinity, some rejected the deity of Christ. But anyway, that bunch of crap, right? They're the early charismatics. They would purity spiral, a lot of these women. Well, they'd be so pure, right? That they would run away. They would leave their husband if he didn't agree with her new religion. Or on the other hand, they'd be so pure by the Spirit, they'd reject the physical reality so much that they'd go about the streets naked.
Oh, there was also in some of these groups a lot of redefinition of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Strange sexual practices, polygamy, hooking up with other people. I mean, moved by the Spirit. There was a lot of wackiness.
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
Yeah. And there's a reason why, look, Protestant Catholics hated each other at that point, but man, they could unite in getting rid of them. It's like, okay, you're bad, but what the hell is going on over here?
Are you implying that there were a bunch of people in Britain that were glad that the Puritans left and came over here?
Well, some of the more extreme or separatist elements of the Puritans, sure. You had the Puritans still within the church. They just want to purify it. They didn't want to leave. They weren't the separatists. But the separatists generally came over to the United States, and then there's no control. They kept dividing until basically you'd have people who were the only family. Some of the pastors, his congregation was his own family.
Well, there were two movements, kind of related. I think Nick alluded to it. There was a piety movement and the purity movement. And the pietists generally tried to reform from within or form a separate group. For instance, in Sweden, the piety movement was a movement away from the state church, and they formed the Swedish Mission Covenant Church, which is now the Covenant Church, Evangelical Covenant Church. And there's also the Evangelical Free Church, which was a branch of the Pietist movement. I believe that was Norwegian originally. And then when the immigrants came over here, they brought it with them. But Evangelical Free Church of America is going through a lot of turmoil and controversy over wokeness right now.
Yeah.
Just like the Presbyterians went through.
we're
The
still
mainstream
going through it.
Presbyterians. And you still are.
No,
I mean,
we're still we're still even doing it even in the conservative. It's there too. Woke is now like the new moderate.
well, Plutarch said that wokeness is a purity movement. You want to expound on that?
Well, what's there to say? That is just what it is. Wokeness is it's cover for very, very bad, evil actions under the name of I'm doing it for the right reasons, and that because I'm doing it for the right reasons, that purifies it. Sorry, guys, I am a little distracted. So there was a we just had a jetliner crash in DC. So
A big one?
yeah, it was a CRJ 700 from Wichita. So it was 60 people on board. Hit a U.S. Army helicopter. Based on the video, I would be surprised if there's any survivors.
In
So,
midair?
I was on approach, yeah, into Washington Reagan.
And the helicopter was in the airspace that the plane was coming through. Yeah. We don't know. I'm not saying who was at fault because I have no idea. But
very likely
something didn't work right.
Very likely the helicopter is going to be at fault. But we'll see. It's just that I've been a little distracted trying to find out more information because I care about these kinds of things. But yeah, no word on how many were on the helicopter, but 60 people on the jet.
And we also don't know of air traffic control, how they are involved in this. I mean, obviously, they should have been in contact with both. And we also don't know if DEI has any traces throughout this incident. We don't know. But questions will be asked.
Well, I don't know. Have we talked about it before? DEI.
Well, we talked about Boeing. We talked about pilots.
Yeah. United Airlines was going to hire. They were going to get like some large percentage of their pilots were going to be BIPOCs, and it's like, okay, that's great. When your planes start crashing for dumb reasons, we're going to see more of this. Just because
Yeah.
DEI is a virus. I don't know if it's involved here, but
No.
it's just,
We'll have to wait and see.
yeah, that's why I've been a little distracted tonight.
Okay. Well, I think I don't have anything more to say. I don't know. We kind of covered the issue. Hopefully, gave our important audience, limited though it may be, just some good things to think about.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be the nice guy beta pushover. Have some balls. And don't give a crap what your elders in your church are going to say. Stop caring. Do what's right. Be a man. Stand firm. Doesn't mean you got to be a jerk. But hey, you might come off as one, but hey, it's better than being a pushover. And yeah, she might leave you, but you probably will be better off.
I think we need to normalize men leaving women. I do. They built this giant edifice of easy divorces, so leverage it and ditch her ass. You don't. She's telling you don't owe anything.
You can say that, but that's not going to happen.
No, I know.
Because for the simple, I can easily demonstrate that. You've all heard the statement, a man is only as good as his word. Men give their word, they give their oath, and for better or worse, they're more inclined to keep their oath, even if things aren't good. Whereas you've never heard a woman, it said, a woman is only as good as her word. It just doesn't work that way. And so if her feelings change, then obviously everything else has changed. And therefore you can't hold her to something she said previously when she was feeling different. So to encourage men to divorce is without a lot of thought. It's a serious thing, and men are really not inclined to go back on their word or violate an oath. And I'm talking in the majority here, and this is not an absolute.
I hear you. The reason I'm saying it is because the woke, the leftists, they understand your psychology, men. They understand that you value your word and your oath and all of that, and they've weaponized that understanding against you. I don't think there is a future where my word is my bond is a thing. I'm looking at the younger generation of men. No. This my word is my bond thing is actually just dying out.
That was the silent generation. That was the silent generation and the golden generation.
Yeah, well, and the boomers were big on it too, but the Xers kind of gave up on. Yeah, the Xers started to give up on it. I mean, they have some weird morals around it, like that certain things, but by the time you get to the younger millennials and Gen Zs, they're just not interested in it. And that I think is probably the more interesting side effect is not it's that a lot of men are just going to turn around and go, well, you behaved like this to me, so you didn't keep your word to me, so why should I keep my word to you?
I agree.
Not saying it's good, but
I agree. And how do men learn to keep their word? As their father held them to what they said. And when the father's not involved,
Right.
Men don't learn that lesson, so they behave differently.
Well,
Again,
generally, fathers teach.
you can say it shouldn't be
how to
this way.
honor.
Well, okay, fine. It shouldn't be this way, but it is. And unless you address the underlying circumstances, hey, yeah, this is reality.
Hey, you have kids raised with no father, and fathers generally taught strength and honor, right?
Right.
You have generations of men that don't see that, haven't been raised by that. I was fortunate, even though my parents got a divorce, but my dad did demonstrate those qualities to me, and he still does.
Look, so does my dad, and I generally do value my word, but what I've noticed is that other people in my generation don't value
No.
my word.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, I might, but that either leads to one of two outcomes. That leads to one of two outcomes. Either people just don't care that I said it, or they actively use it against me. I've never met someone and they just say, "Oh, that was so cool." And I trust. No, they don't trust. They don't. No. And so I think that age is dying, and that would be what I would say in response to you, Nick, or sorry, Steve. The betas, particularly the younger ones, they might be inclined to stick around with their women when they're bullied to do it. But if they ever start to say no, I don't think you're going to see this huge move to, oh, well, but I have to stay with the woman because I said so. I think they're just going to go, I'm out.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was a good discussion because I hadn't thought about it from a younger generational perspective. So I think you're right. And I just had a nasty discussion debate with a friend of mine, and he did not know how to ethically debate.
Most people don't.
Ad hominem, moving the goalposts, appeal to authority, outright insult, refusal to acknowledge any point I made, rejection of logic, everything. And guess what? He was raised by a single mother. So if he cannot conduct himself in an honorable manner, in a difference, and he has to throw in all kinds of other shit and be insulting and all that. Yeah, this type of behavior correlates exactly to not having, a guy not saying his word is his bond because he's missing something.
Well, is that it for the evening, gentlemen?
Purity tornado. Do I got it? Do I have it next week?
I don't know, Steve. You were talking about an idea in the chat beforehand. You want to do that one next week? We can let Nick have a break here.
Yeah, that one's primarily by you.
Okay.
Because I'm, I could talk about it, but mostly I'd be talking out of my ass. Well, more than usual.
Yeah, it's not that we don't, we're not saying no, Nick. It's just you've done a lot lately.
I have? Okay.
Yeah, you have.
Well,
have.
I mean,
Well,
you guys,
eventually, I think
let's mention what it is. Okay, there's this thing that came out lately about AI and a cheaper, faster way to do it. Came supposedly from the Chinese, and it caused some kerfuffles in the the NASDAQ and with NVIDIA, and it has implications for jobs in the future and H-1B. And what is this all about? It also has implications for data centers. How many do we need? The power plants or additional electric power generation we need in this country. Okay, what is this? There's something here. Is it real? How real is it? What's the impact going to be? And I don't think a lot of people understand it. So I think a discussion would be good.
We can certainly do
I need to
that.
learn something. That'd be fun.
That one will be we will try to focus on the sort of, it's mostly from the men's issue side, it's mostly going to be on the labor side of things. So that'll be, some of it will just be going over what is this technology actually, and what it is and what it isn't, because I think a lot of people think things about it that are just not true. So we'll get into that. Yeah,
We've done an episode on AI before, so this will be another
we
one. Okay.
did. George Bruno asked us to do one, although he was talking about AI. We talked more about AI girlfriends in that one. I think that's what it's actually called. Yeah, AI,
Okay.
the rise of AI girlfriends. That was 5 months ago in our history. This one will be focused on a different aspect of it. So much to talk about. Nick, we'll make you do something week after next. That's what we'll do.
I got an idea. It's probably going to be, I'll probably revisit some Dalrock articles. We can have some fun with that. Yeah.
All right, there you go, Shu. Now you've got to show up for 2 weeks in a row. All right, well, I think that's it, everyone. We will see you all next week.
Later.